Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it is time to have a look at another user mission, and this is the T-84-120, the Yataghan. This is another creation from Dan Pogan. Dan Pogan has made a bunch of stuff in the past, such as the ERC-90 Panhard, and also the Oplot, which has been around the place. The Yataghan is a evolution of the Oplot, basically more designed for export ideas compared to the Oplot itself, and overall is a pretty interesting vehicle. I wonder if stuff like this will come to the game. I hope it does eventually, just because the vehicles themselves are super interesting and also incredibly modern. Maybe event vehicles or maybe squadron vehicles would be the best place for them. Now, the Yataghan only has one issue with it. I think it should be called the Yagatan, because it actually sounds much better. But anyway, the Yataghan is an improvement of the T-84 tank. Basically, the idea was to get it to a point and adapt it where it would get to NATO standards. It's equipped with a 120mm smoothbore cannon. The cannon itself can fire APFSDS, can fire Heat MP, and also basically anything that you would want it to fire. It can also fire laser-guided missiles, which are produced in Ukraine, so it can fire all the standard NATO stuff, plus a little bit more. It does have a coaxial 7.62mm twin machine gun, and also a 12.7mm anti-aircraft machine gun on top of it as well. Plus, there are stuff such as some interesting things built into it. The first interesting thing is the autoloader itself. So most MBTs that you see, which are similar to the T-72 or T-80 series, what you'll find is they keep the cylindrical loader on it. You know, if you have a look at machines such as the Oplot itself, it actually still has the circular loader under the two crewmen which are in the turret. When it actually comes to this vehicle, the Yataghan, it has the ammunition stored in the back of the turret, very similar to what you find from a Type 90 or a Western MBT like the Abrams. So its autoloader, which it does have, is very similar to something like the Type 10 or the Type 90, instead of an autoloader like the Soviet style, which is cylindrical under the vehicle itself. And this means that it has a pretty decent rate of fire. It can fire basically 8 to 10 rounds per minute, and also, if needed, there is a semi-automatic and manual loading of the gun if required when it comes to the vehicle itself. So it should also have blowout panels because of where the ammunition is housed in the back of the turret, but I can't actually find anything kind of showing that it does have access to blowout panels. I see that it has access to a bunch of different stuff. You know, obviously when it comes to modern material, they talk about the ideas, but never really go into details about what is fully on the machine. The Yataghan also was adapted to the demands of the Turkish army when it was presented at the IDEF exhibition in Ankara in 1999 to 2001, but I don't think it has actually been bought by anybody, since only a single prototype seems to exist of the vehicle. It has a gun depression of 5 degrees, which is a little bit rough, but isn't too bad when it comes to the vehicle itself. And it is powered by a decently sized engine, not the biggest that you'll see on the battlefield nowadays, but still it is a 1200 horsepower engine. It is the Model 6 TD2 twin-stroke multi-fuel liquid-cooled 6-cylinder diesel engine, so it can move around. And also, one thing to note, where a lot of these vehicles kind of fall down in their reverse gears, the Yataghan actually has 5 reverse gears, so it can go pretty quick forward, up to generally 70 kilometers an hour, and also it can go quickly backwards, bringing it up to more of a modern standard compared to before. Also, at the same time, as we talked about with the protection part of it, it does have passive armor. It has built-in dynamic protection, so that probably means some either passive systems or active systems to try and keep it alive. and also it has the extra edition where it could basically add on some armor packages if it needed to give it some more dynamic protection. The crew is a standard 3, and it has a driver in the front and then a commander and a gunner in the turret, which is quite nice for the vehicle. And it also weighs 48 tons, so it's not light by any standard, but compared to a few other vehicles around this time in history, it is, you know, not the heaviest either. So what you find here is a heavily upgraded Eastern idea, which is heavily upgraded with Western ideals in mind in the form of the NATO standards. And these are the type of vehicles that I personally find very interesting. There is a few others, such as some Romanian vehicles, which have the kind of similar idea, such as the elongated T-55, the TR-85, which isn't actually a T-55, but it looks like one, but it had, at least when it started, a reverse-engineered Leopard engine. It was one of the first vehicles to kind of cross the barrier between the Berlin Wall, I suppose. Whereas nowadays you get many more ideas, such as the Slovakian upgraded T-72, the Moderna, which we've seen just added to the game. And now you have stuff like the Yatagan, which tries to cross over different ideas around the place. And for me, that's super cool. The Yatagan also is a Ukrainian vehicle, and it's very similar to a bunch of other Ukrainian vehicles, as I said, the Oplot itself, and also I believe Dan Pogan is working on a BTR-4, which could also come to the game. Now obviously with the invasion of Ukraine, vehicles like this may have been put on the back burner when it comes to War Thunder's ideas, but I hope in the future vehicles like this can be added to the game. I feel like with Gaijin wanting to stay apolitical and away from everything, they probably would want to steer away from these things at the time, but all I've got to say is Dan Pogan does a fantastic job when it comes to these models. They are pristine, they are absolutely beautiful, and should eventually come to the game in my opinion. So hopefully, along with the Oplot, along with the BTR, along with the Panhard, hopefully the Yatagan can also make it into the game. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Merciless Reaper, Jerry Provolt, Mega Dino King, Professor X1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, Moxie, B. Young, and Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.